slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad.
Hello, Aloysius. Hello, everybody. How are you today? You're good? You have a question for me. You have a question for me. Okay. Hello. And so, before we get to the question, look at my wonderful shirt. Yeah, it is good, isn't it? Is the Milwaukee Family Players. Look, see, has a skull on it. Skull with flowers. That's the Milwaukee Family Players thing. No, they got that after they died. After Her Infernal Majesty put them down there. Yes. Yes. Yes, because that's her. You know, death and spring. Oh, you get it now? Yeah, you get it now. Good. Good. So, yeah, Her Infernal Majesty made me buy it. She twisted my arm. Like, really twisted it. It really hurt. Yeah, I know. I would have bought it without that, but she really twisted my arm. I think she almost dislocated my shoulder. Yeah, I know. It's a bit mean. I won't twist your arm. No, I hope not. No. But one thing I really can encourage you to get is this book with the monsters. Yeah, there's the book with the monsters. The Bonehead Resistance by Narelle King. It's new out. So if you like, or you have family who like, or anyone else, yes, we did do an interview. We did do an interview, and it was a really good interview, wasn't it? Yes, yes, yes. We did an interview with the author, so you could go have a look at that. But this book, great book for anyone who loves contemporary fantasy, who loves books with monsters in, who'd like to see fantasy set in Sydney and surrounds. This is the book. Be a great Christmas present for someone, I think. Yeah, it would. It would. Okay, you come back over here. Okay, now, what is your question, Aloysius? I got some writing advice. Oh, yes. You've been going to someone else for writing advice? Yes. That was very rude. You know I give good writing advice. Why'd you go to someone else? I thought I'd just try variation. I'm hurt. I am hurt. You know I give good writing advice, Aloysius. You know you can always come to me for writing advice. And you guys know that too. Just book a session. You can come to me for writing advice. Okay. Okay, I know you're sorry. What is your question? Well, the piece of advice I got, I really don't like. Oh, okay. What was it? Write what you know. And that's it. That's all they said to you? Yes, they said, write what you know. Because I went and I said, what should I write about? And they said, write what you know. But I don't think that that's appropriate. You don't think that's appropriate? No, because A, I write horror. Yeah, that's a good one. So, you know, unless you're really messing with me, and we have a bunch of bodies buried under the house, yeah, you don't live that serial killer lifestyle. No. Are there bodies buried under the house? No. Good, because I really don't need the police around here to find bodies under the house. Like, I mean, that is just something we don't need in our lives. Might be a few spiders. Spiders is fine. It's like pets and hire. No, nothing like that. Good. So like, you know, look, if a rat got under there and died, that's fine, or some beetles or some spiders or something. We can live with that. Yes. What we can't live with is pets or hire buried under the house. No. Good. So you're not Dennis Nielsen. No. David Tennant was really good in that. He was, wasn't he? Yeah. You really liked that, didn't you? Yeah. Anyway, That's just what bodies under the house made me think of. No, there are not bodies under the house. Okay. So you don't know that. No. And what else made you find this not so great? Well, I think they meant that I should use my own real life for my creative output. Yeah, I can see that. And I don't work like that. No, I am very well aware you don't really work like that, Aloysius. You're more of a mythic writer. You take things that interest you and you research them, and then you create a realistic world, not a realistic world, but a concrete world that is engage withable from that research. Yes. So you're a mythic writer. Is that what that's called? Well, that's what I call it. What's the other kind? Well, the other kind of writer, and this is what a lot of people get confused about when they say write what you know, is they assume that everybody is what is called an autoethnographic writer, a person who minds their own life for their work. Oh no, that doesn't sound appealing at all. No, and Aloysius, if you don't mind saying, could you possibly explain to everyone, without going into enormous detail, why that might not be the most appealing sort of writing? Because I have high functioning anxiety. Okay, because you have high functioning anxiety that I've been working very, very hard to overcome and live with, because anytime that flares up, I can't work, and then I get depressed, and then that's bad. So what you're saying is that there are things in your life that make you anxious, and that when you focus on those things, that deteriorates your mental health further, and then you end up in a position where there is no way that you can write or create anything at all, and that makes you more depressed, which creates a cycle in which you get stuck, where not being able to write makes you depressed, and the depression makes it impossible for you to write. Yes. And it's horrible. And this was because you were bullied when you were a little bat, isn't it? Maybe. It is, isn't it? Yeah. And so you have a lot of nervous system dysregulation that you've had to work on. Yes. And because you've had that, those memories that somebody saying, write what you know, bring it up, dysregulate your nervous system, which ups your anxiety, which means that you can't write. Yes. This is why write what you know, although a benign sounding piece of writing advice, is actually really detrimental to a lot of people. Because when people say write what you know, most people assume they mean, put a self-insert. Now, if you're somebody who is struggling with certain mental health issues, whether they're diagnosed or just something that you deal with in your own life, whether you are working with someone or just working on that yourself with your own tools, doesn't matter. If you are working on that in yourself and you are trying to work around that in life, the idea of dredging back into your life, which may have been a source of that anxiety or depression, doesn't sound terribly appealing. It sounds like, oh wow, that's a great way for me to completely flare that up and render my writing absolutely dead. Yeah. I have seen children at school go into a panic when given that advice, because the idea of writing their own lived reality is just too overwhelming. school is somewhere they come to escape that, and often something like books or writing is a place that they escape to. It's a place that real world doesn't have to follow you. So if you are hearing the very seemingly benign advice, write what you know, that can be really, really difficult. Now, to break that down, I would say you can write what you know. Yes, but I don't mean narrativize your life. You know a lot of things that you don't think you know, that don't immediately come to mind when your survival brain kicks in and goes into defensive mode, which is, no, oh God, I can't tell people about things like that. That would just be too much, too overwhelming, too impossible. And why would you want to? You're going to write badly doing that anyway. Like, you're going to write really, really badly. Okay? And you're only going to write from your ego self. Yes. And do we write from our ego self? No, we don't write from our ego self. We write from our shadow self. Our shadow self, we put it on a leash and we let it do creative work. Our shadow self is not there to actively hurt us, in spite of the way that we often think about the shadow side. Our shadow self is actually, once you leash it and control it, it isn't there to hurt you. And it can be incredibly, incredibly creative. It is part of you. It's the part that tells the mean jokes. If you've got a wicked sense of humour, especially a dark one, that's your shadow self coming through. Okay? Yeah, it's probably your shadow self that likes writing the horror. Yeah. So all that dark side, generally speaking, people who are very, very light and love and bubbly have a really dark shadow. You can have your light and dark are proportional to each other. So that's also a thing. If you meet someone who you can't see their shadow, you can't see a dark side to them, that could be a bit of a problem, because it means they might be repressing something, repressing it, and repressed shadows come out in weird ways. But you do know more than you think you know. What do I know? You know what it feels like to wake up on a sunny morning. You know what it feels like to have rain day after day after day after day, and to get cabin fever and fight with your siblings, if you have siblings. You know what it's like to wake up and see that it snowed overnight and you don't have to go to school because it's a snow day. You know what it's like to be happy. You know what it's like to be sad. You know what it's like to be in love. You know what it's like to fancy someone who doesn't fancy you back. You know a lot of things that are not things that are narrativizing your life, but are deep human things. Yes. And the most realistic novels, even with the most fantastical stuff in them, tap in to deep human things, don't they? Yes, because that's what we all respond to. Cross-culturally, tapping into deep human things is the thing that allows you to engage with a book. In fact, when you read a book and it really doesn't work for you, generally, like when it really doesn't work, not that you just don't like it, but when it's like this doesn't work, it's generally because the characters are not behaving in a resonantly human manner. When people don't behave in a way that feels human, characters don't behave in a way that feels human, that feels false, then the writing is going to feel false. Yes. But when you write characters and you write situations that feel real, and by real, I don't mean that you had to have been in that situation yourself, but that feel real on a deeply human level, that tap into human concerns. This is why an ancient Greek play can still have resonance. Shakespeare's 400 years old. We have nothing in common with Shakespeare in terms of our daily lives. However, we are still engaged by his plays because they are so human, aren't we? Yes. Okay? This is cross-cultural. It is absolutely cross-cultural, although there can be cultural barriers to stories where we don't necessarily understand the culture that we're reading. The humanness still comes through. So when somebody gives you a piece of advice called write what you know, firstly, ask yourself a couple of questions. Firstly, are they just parroting something that they've already heard? In which case, I don't think they're giving you great advice in the first place, and you probably don't need to listen to them. Because if they're parroting cliches, because write what you know is a cliche, if they're parroting cliches, then I'm going to be questioning the rest of the advice that they give. And secondly, you are a human being, or rather you're a bat, but let's go with this. You are a human being. You have certain things that you know about being a human being and your unique experience in the world, even though it is a unique experience in the world, because on a species level, you share that with other people, all humans in the world. On a social and cultural level, you share that with other people within your society and culture. You have an experience that others share, and that is what you are sharing. So it's not about writing your own actual life. No, it's not about writing your own actual life. Autoethnographic writing is for some people. However, autoethnographic writing is not for everyone, and it's not appropriate for every genre. So if that is what you are, more power to you. Go write what you know. But for the majority of writers, I would actually say write what you know is next to useless, because it is not applicable to every genre, and it is often just a cliche that's parroted. You know about the human experience. That's what you write. That is what you infuse into all of your characters. Is that why you like writing male characters? Yeah, that's why I like writing male characters. I like writing male characters. I like exploring that way of viewing the world. It's not an experience that I have, but I have basic belief and faith that as men are human beings, they therefore share the majority of how I experience the world as a human being, with a few differences based on gender. That you're gender non-conforming. Well, that's fine. I said a few differences, didn't I? No. Okay, yes. Well, you're a bat. You write across species. That's more difficult. All right, fair. So, by writing what you know, examine that piece of advice deeper. Okay, it's not the world's worst piece of advice, but it is going to work badly if you have nervous system dysregulation and you are struggling with that. Even if you're not struggling with that, there are going to be things that you just are not going to go into. Like it's not going to feel comfortable. It's going to kick up your nervous system, send you into survival mode, which you do not like because it derails everything. Your writerly self will never send you there. So if you're writing from that position, you're forcing it, you're using your ego to write in the first place. So I would say there are plenty of other ways to find stories than to mine your own life. Aside from anything, do you really want to be using your own life as your primary source of inspiration? I think most writers live fairly dull lives because of the nature of their work. Writing work is solitary and involves large amounts of time on its own. So unless you're writing misery, and that's more about the crazed fan than the writer, there aren't that many great books about writing because it's not the world's most exciting job. So therefore, write what you know does require a bit more explanation. It requires a bit more digging, but it's often just a cliche that's trotted out that you're allowed to ignore. And next time, Aloysius, come and speak to me before you go finding some rando to give you cliched advice. Okay? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. You want to say goodbye to everyone? Bye-bye. De Volkerfinger, ich bin ja Jesus, sa. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.